Hello and welcome to a brand new unit. This unit is all about cybersecurity, and this first lesson is about cyber attacks. So before we start the actual content, as usual, there's a quick starter. What do you understand of the word hacking? I'm not going to go into that anymore. I just want you to write down in the back of the books what you understand hacking to mean, obviously from a computer science perspective. I'll give you 10 seconds, write down what you reckon it means. Okay, it'll be interesting to find out what people thought hacking meant, because in reality, it's quite a simple definition. It simply means unauthorized access to computer data. Now, that doesn't mean technical hacking. It doesn't mean getting round security. It doesn't mean sitting clacking away at a keyboard until you got access to something. It can be any way of accessing data you're not supposed to access. Guessing someone's password, watching them type it over their shoulder, accessing their data when they leave it logged in and they shouldn't have done. All of that stuff is hacking. So today's lesson is all about cyber attacks, which usually are forms of hacking, because the purpose of cyber attacks is to find ways to access data that the attacker doesn't usually have access to. And we're going to look at a couple of specific types of cyber attack, which are phishing and malware. And within malware, there are three types of malware we can look at: ransomware, botnets, and keyloggers. So let's start with phishing. I want you to have a look at this email. Does anything look strange about it? If you were subscribed to Netflix and you received this email in your inbox, what would your impression of it be? Well, if we look at the content of it, hi customer, odd way for a formal email to start, but it's not the end of the world. We could not authorize your payment for the next billing cycle of your subscription, therefore we've suspended your membership, but your current subscription is active until it expires. That doesn't make much sense, but let's carry on. Obviously, we'd love to have you back. Simply click restart your membership to update your details and continue to enjoy all the best TV shows and movies without interruption. That sounds pretty standard. We're here to help if you need it. Visit the help center for more information or contact us, the Netflix team. Now, that first paragraph was a little odd. Saying hi customer was a little odd. Other than that, that seems a fairly standard email. However, one thing I would like us to notice about it is the address. This is the address that this email came from. It says it's from Netflix, but then the actual address that's given is a whole bunch of numbers and letters at BYDANGUASHA, etc. That's not Netflix.com, which is where any official communication would come from. They own that domain, Netflix.com. That's their main website. Emails would come from that. That doesn't. So straight away, that should be telling you this email isn't actually from Netflix. And it's not. It's an example of a typical phishing scam. Phishing spelt with a PH. In a phishing scam, we get an email like that and it encourages us to click a link to solve a problem. Usually the problem is something that you'd be very keen on sorting straight away. It manipulates you into wanting to get it sorted. But when you click the link, it goes to a site like this. Again, looking at this, no reason to think that's not Netflix. However, if you actually read the URL up here, it says secure.netflix.ev5-authenticate-key something.com. It has the word Netflix in there, but that's still not Netflix.com. The actual URL there is, the actual domain is ev5-authenticate.keyidmsa.com. That's the actual web address. The Netflix part is a subdomain of that. And websites help you out with this by highlighting the actual domain in black. And hopefully you can see on there that Netflix isn't highlighted. So that tells us it's taken us to a site that isn't actually Netflix. Most people, however, would not notice that URL, would assume I'm on Netflix, I've got to reactivate my account, I'll sign in. They enter their Netflix username and password, click sign in. What do we reckon then happens? Well, whoever owns this site now has their username and password because they've entered it into this site, it's sent off to their database, they've got it. They now have that username and password. They can then use it to log into real Netflix, and they can steal private data. They can change the password and auction off your account. They can have a look at your memorable information, which can then be used to reset passwords on other sites. Basically, they've got access to things you don't want them to have access to. So phishing scams trick you into entering an account's username and password onto a fake website, which then stores that username and password. A cyber criminal could use them to log into your real account and steal data, such as your security questions. Phishing scams often direct victims to a fake bank website, and therefore are used to steal actual money from the real account. That's a far more serious one. So before we do a little activity based on this, can you make these notes, please? Phishing is a very common scam used to gain access to your social media or bank accounts. An email is sent pretending to be from a bank or another company. The email directs you to a fake website which looks like the bank's login page. The victim enters their username and password into the fake website, allowing the scammer to use their details on the real website. So make those notes, unpause the video when you're done. Okay, so a quick task to do. Now, this is genuine. A few days ago, I genuinely received this. This was on Facebook. I received an instant message from someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, but a genuine person on my feed. And it said this: "You are in that video," and 2 shocked emojis. Now, the video itself is clearly cropped and it's not able to see what's going on. At this point, I wasn't really thinking phishing. I just assumed, oh, am I in a video somewhere? On it, and it took me to this page, which again looks a lot like Facebook. In the end, I didn't log into it because I knew I would already be logged into Facebook. I'd been on it not long ago, so that started to seem suspicious to me, but I could easily have fallen for this one. So given that information, I want you to answer these questions. In the back of your book, write down the answer to these questions. First of all, what indications are there that this is a scam? So once I got suspicious, how could I confirm this is indeed a scam? Secondly, what tricks did the scammer use to try and make me want to log in? Remember I said that they'll send you a message that will make you want to sort it out quickly. What trick have they used to make me want to check it? And finally, what might have happened had I tried to log in? If I hadn't suddenly dawned on me this is probably a scam, and if I'd tried to log into this website, what would likely have happened? So if you write down the answer to those 3 questions, unpause the video when you're done. Okay, well, indications that this is a scam, the main thing here is this at the top. That is not facebook.com, which is Facebook's URL. That is clearly a different website. So straight away, I'd be very suspicious about that. The fact that the video down there says it's on a separate website with a very strange URL. It's not a URL I recognize as a video sharing website. So straight away, I should have been thinking that's an odd URL for it to send. However, I didn't, but I should have noticed immediately that that is not Facebook's web address. What tricks did the scammer use to try and make me want to log in? Well, it was very clever psychological manipulation. By putting the shocked emoji next to "Are you in that video?" I immediately thought, what video am I in? And had a little bit of a panic about it. Thought, gosh, if I'm on a video that's online, this could be a problem. So of course I immediately wanted to check what the video was because I was confused by it. So that creating that sense of panic and that sense of urgency is a really good way to stop you thinking, could this be a scam, and just want to sort the problem. And finally, what might have happened had I tried to log in? Well, the likelihood is my username and password would have been stolen. They'd have used it to log into my real Facebook, potentially changed my password, and then would have sent out a similar message to this to all my contacts to try and compromise their accounts. At the same time, they probably scraped all the personal information from it. Anything that I've got on there they might be able to use later for identity theft or whatever, that would all have been taken. So that's phishing. The other threat that we want to look at today is malware. Malware is an abbreviation of malicious software. It's any software that attempts to harm the user or their computer. Malware includes viruses, keyloggers, remote control software, all kinds of things. If you don't intend for it to be on your system and it's going to be used against you, it's malware. It's a very broad term. Now, unlike in the movies, when you get stuff like this, the screen's taken over and you're told you've got a virus and everything stops working, the vast majority of malware hides itself. It doesn't allow you to know it's installed. It's very careful to stay in the background completely undetected because it wants you to continue using your computer while it does the things it's going to do. The kind of things it does, we're going to have a look at, usually monitoring what you're doing, possibly executing instructions from a remote source. So how it gets on your computer, well, there's a couple of different ways. Often it's by tricking somebody into running a file, either by sending an email from a compromised account saying, have a look at this and hoping they'll just run it, or by getting you to download something you think is something else and run that, or embedding it into something else. If you go to popular torrent sites or piracy sites, a lot of this stuff you get there is riddled with malware because they know that kind of stuff isn't going to be checked. Or you can exploit a mistake in some other software to run code it wasn't designed to run. We're not going to go into too much detail about this, but a very common way to get onto there is to find some software that's badly written, exploit that badly written aspect of it to make it run some extra code, and then that code can download and install a file. So the dangers of malware. What kinds of malware we can get? Well, we're going to look at three of them, three very common types: ransomware, botnet, and keylogger. Ransomware, some of you may have heard of. It's been in the news quite a lot. Ransomware is by far the fastest growing malware. It's becoming a real problem. It encrypts, once it gets onto your system, it encrypts every file on your hard disk. Not the ones to run the system, but all of your personal files. They'll get encrypted so you can't access them without a decryption key. It then, once that's done, pops up a notification to say that they've been encrypted and you have to pay to decrypt it. It's blackmail, essentially. Now, if you've looked after your files, if you've got them stored somewhere else, not the end of the world. You can just delete the encrypted one, delete the malware and get them back again. But if you're a big corporation and you've got a whole bunch of project sensitive files and they've all been encrypted and you need them back, you're probably going to end up paying for it. And large corporations have been known to pay millions to get their data back. And that's why it's spreading, it's working. Botnet, the second type of malware, is where your computer becomes part of a network of bots. And by a bot, it means a computer that can be told what to do remotely. So if you've got some botnet software on your computer, you won't know it, it will keep it hidden, but your computer can be instructed by a remote website to send out an email, or to send out a phishing scam, or to attack another site in some way. Pretty much all spam emails, all phishing attacks come from botnets. They come from computers whose owners don't know they're sending it. That's why it's so hard to trace. And then the third type of malware is a keylogger. A keylogger sits on your computer and logs everything you press. It keeps a track of every single thing on the keyboard and periodically sends it away to wherever originated the malware. Then once it's there, it can be analysed to try and extract things like usernames and passwords. So if you've typed your username followed by your password, that can be extracted from your keylog, and then they can log into the website and they've got access to your bank details or whatever else it is that you logged into. So very dangerous. So a quick task. There's a link on the VLE, it's this link here, to find out some more about ransomware. Have a read of that site. It's a very interesting one, gives some real examples of ones that have hit, and it talks about what steps can be taken to avoid becoming a victim of it. So have a read of that site and try and find out what steps you can take to avoid becoming a victim of ransomware. Once you've done this task, unpause it and we'll continue. Okay, so notes on malware. Can you make, back in the front of your books, can you make the note of the following? Malware is a term for any malicious software. Malware is software that is doing you or your computer harm. Malware gets onto your computer by exploiting errors in software or tricking the user. And then the three types of malware. Ransomware encrypts your files and blackmails you for their decryption. A botnet is a network of computers which receive and execute instructions from a cybercriminal. And a keylogger logs all keystrokes and sends them to cybercriminals for processing. Again, unpause once you're done. Okay, so your main task, as usual, is a quick quiz on the VLE. If you complete that and you have time left, the extension task is to create a poster to go up in an office warning the workers about either phishing or ransomware, depending on which one you've researched best. The poster must explain how the attack works and what they need to do to avoid becoming a victim of it. So complete the quiz, upload the poster if you have time, and I'll see you for next week's lesson.